Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to talk about converting mixed numbers to improper fractions. Now, to just remind you what exactly we're dealing with, a mixed number is a whole number, so let's just say the number 1, and then it goes with a proper fraction. A proper fraction means that the numerator is less than the denominator. Remember, the numerator is upstairs, the denominator is downstairs. An improper fraction is one where the numerator is larger or greater than the denominator. Oops, get that. So those distinctions are helpful for understanding what we're actually trying to do. Now here's what's cool. This number here, this mixed number, 1 2/3, can be converted to an improper fraction. And we can talk about why sometimes it's a good idea to do that. And then this number here, 14/5, can be converted to a mixed number. But let's just talk about, now that we've talked about, reminded ourselves of what these numbers are, let's do some examples with pizzas. We do a lot of pizza talk with fractions because, you know what, I think a lot of people like pizza. I know I do. I especially think a lot of kids like pizza. So let's pretend I go over to a pizza place and I get 3 pizzas. I am really, really hungry and I just want to eat all these pizzas. Okay? Now let's pretend that here I have 1 pizza and I'm hungry. And I eat 1/2 of it. Now, what do you notice about these pizzas? You can probably see that they are divided into halves. Let's pretend I divided them into halves. That means that our denominator, first of all, is going to be halves. So let's just put a denominator down. We don't know the numerator. The numerator is the part that I'm going to eat. So let's pretend over here I had 1/2 a pizza. But then I got hungry and I had another half of this pizza, which basically means that I had 2 out of 2 pieces. I had 2 out of 2 pieces. I actually ate the whole pizza. And if you haven't learned this already, whenever the numerator is the same as the denominator, that is the same as 1 whole. So as an example, another example, let's pretend I have 3/3, that equals 1 whole. 5/5, that also equals 1 whole. And 1,436, that also equals 1 whole. So hopefully you get the idea there. Let me get on up, remove all these little examples, and let's get back to our original pizzas here. So we've got 2 out of 2 halves here. Well, let's pretend I'm hungry again, and I just decide to have another half, another piece, another half. Well, let me ask you something. How many pizzas have I had? I've had 2 halves, and then I've had another half. But let's pretend that I'm still hungry and I still eat another one. Well, now I've had 2 halves plus 2 halves. Now, another way to think about that is that I've had 2 whole pizzas. Because remember, if 2 halves is really 1, and then 2 halves is also really 1, then I've had 2 pizzas so far, right? But now, let's just say that I have another, I'm starving today and I just want to have another half over here. So I eat another half of pizza. But now I'm done. I'm all done. I don't want to have any more pizza. So in the end, I only had 1 more pizza. Now, just looking at this picture, if I asked you how many pizzas did I have, you might look at it and you might say, well, Nadia, you had 2.5 pizzas. I can see right here, you've had 1 pizza, you've had another pizza, and you didn't eat the whole pizza there. Oops, that circle wasn't good. You only had half of this one, so I'd say you had 2.5 pizzas. And here we have our mixed number, 2.5. right? Now, let's say we want to think about this as an improper fraction. We're going to think about this as an improper fraction. Well, one way to also think about this, no one way is right or wrong, but let's count it. Like if every pizza is divided into halves here, then we're dealing with the denominator of halves. Then let's look at how many halves I've had in all. I've had 1/2 plus another half, that's 2 halves, plus another half, and then another half. That's now 4 halves because 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I've had one more half. So let's see, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 halves in all. And one way you might be able to think about this is when we add fractions, and the denominator is the same as it is here, we keep the denominator the same, and then we just add up all the numerators. So we do 2 plus 2, that's 4, and 4 plus 1, that's, oh, I made that look funny, 4 plus 1, that's 5. So 2.5 is the same as 5 halves. I hope that that makes sense for you. Now, let's say you're dealing with larger numbers or you don't really feel like drawing pictures. And you just want to convert a mixed number, like this one, to an improper fraction, like this one, really fast. Well, guess what? I have a formula for you. And I can't take credit for discovering it. I don't really know who did. But let's get to it and talk about the formula for doing this. Basically, let's pretend I have the number. Well, let's go with our original example. 2.5, since let's pretend I just had 2.5 pizzas. So the formula, guys, it goes like this. Now here we have the denominator. So we do denominator times the whole number. I hope you can read that okay. So you multiply. Actually, I don't know why I made an arrow. Yeah, I'm being a little goofy today, aren't I? But let me do it this way. You multiply the denominator by the whole number, and you must do it in this order. And then what you're going to do is after you then add the numerator, add the product. Now, I'll just write add the numerator, and that is going to give you your new numerator for your improper fraction. So the way it works is, guys, it's like this. When you're converting a mixed number to an improper fraction, the first thing that you're going to do actually is you're going to take that original denominator, and it stays the same. You're going to keep that denominator. And then the actual formula, it goes like this. Denominator times the whole number, and then you add the numerator, and that will give you the new numerator. Now you must remember to do it in this order. I'm actually putting parentheses around this denominator times whole number. You absolutely cannot add the whole number to the numerator first. You will get the wrong answer. And you all may or may not have learned the order of operations. I think in my class they haven't learned that yet. And so when you know the order of operations, you'll understand why it needs to be done in this order. But for now, just remember to do this part first, the denominator times the whole number, and then you add the numerator to get the new numerator. So let's do it. So if I multiply this denominator times the whole number, which is also 2, and then I add the numerator, which is 1, I get 2 times 2, that's 4, and then I add this 1 here, and that gives me 5. And my improper fraction is now 5/2. Let's do another example. Let's do 3 1/4. Now, remember, we're going to start. We're going to multiply the denominator by the whole number. We're going to multiply the denominator by the whole number. 3 times 4, that equals 12. Next, we're going to take that product and we're going to add the numerator. So now we do, let me do a different color. Let's do, what color do I want? Blue. 12 plus 1 equals 13. Now remember here, we are going to keep the denominator the same. Denominator stays the same. And now, here's our new numerator, and it is 13/4. So 3 1/4 equals 13/4. It equals 13/4. 3 1/4 equals 13/4. I'm going to just show you something here that they're probably going to start perhaps by showing you how to do it this way at school. Well, think about it like this too. Like when you have a whole number of 3, if you want to convert 3 like this, you would just, and you're dealing with the denominator 4, 3 is really 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 4/4. Now, why is that? That's because when we're dealing with this denominator of 4, right? When we have the number 3, we know that 4/4 actually equals 1. So really what we have is, let me do a different color, 1 plus 1 plus 1, which equals 3. So some kids, I notice that they like to do it that way. What they'll do is they'll do it that way. They'll say, they'll convert the 3 to a form of fraction that they can understand better. And then what they're going to do is then they're going to add this part plus 1/4. And then because they already know how to add fractions with the same denominator, we keep the denominator the same, and then you just add the top here. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 1. Well, let's see, that's 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 4 is 12, 12 plus 1 is 13. So that's another way to get 13/4. But in general, I find that the students I work with, and certainly myself, we like the formula of denominator times whole number plus numerator equals new numerator much better. And the reason is that sometimes you're dealing with really big numbers, like, well, let's just do an example. Let's do 20/3. Oh, sorry. Let's do 20 1/3. And we want to convert that to an improper fraction. We already know our denominator because the denominator stays the same from our mixed number. Now, using the system where you would have to write down 20 as a fraction of 3/3 20 times, that's just going to take a while. It's going to be laborious. So instead of doing it like that, let's follow our formula. We'll start by multiplying 3 times 20. And 3 times 20 equals 60. Then we're going to do our next step of taking that product and adding this numerator here. So 60 plus 1, well, that equals 61. And there's our answer, 61/3. So 20 1/3 is 61/3. And I'll stop there. We will practice in class. We will also learn in our next video how to convert an improper fraction to a mixed number using division. But we're not going to get into that today. We're just going to stick to one thing. And remember, it's all about practice. The more we practice doing this, the better we get at it. And we practice so much. I can tell you, I practice so much that the reason I can do it as quickly as I can is because I've just done it so many times. So practice, 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 kids. And until next time, Bye, mathematicians.